Amidofo. The second of Universal Worthy's 10 great vows is to praise thus come ones. Since the first vow is to respect all Buddhas, why don't we simply rephrase them as one? Praise and respect all Buddhas. There is a profound meaning within these two vows. Respect all Buddhas applies to behavior. When considering the form, we are to show respect for everybody, regardless of whether they are good or bad. Also, we are to respect all laws, whether they are accepted or heretical. Praise the thus come one applies to nature. So there is a difference. We admire the good, but not the bad, although we respect the latter as well. And therein lies the difference. In the Flower Adornment Sutra, Buddha Shakyamuni understood this very well. Suddhana respected and praised nearly every one of the 53 spiritual guides that he visited. However, 3 of them he respected but did not praise: Fasumidwal, Shenrikpolaman, and Ganlu Huang. The first was a prostitute and symbolized lust and greed. The second was a heretic and symbolized ignorance. The third was hot-tempered and symbolized anger, punishing all those who caused him the slightest offense by plunging them into boiling water or driving them into a hill of daggers. These 3 symbolized the 3 poisons of greed, anger, and ignorance. To Suddhana, the 3 were to be respected but not praised. So we see that praise is linked to virtue. Only good characteristics and accepted laws deserve praise. But we still respect all beings and things because respect reflects purity of mind and the virtue of respecting others equally. We respect heretical beliefs while we praise accepted ones such as Christianity, which helps raise people to the heaven realms. This is not achieving the perfect, complete enlightenment, but it is infinitely better than heretical beliefs that will lead people to fall into the 3 lower realms. So we praise Christianity. However, we never praise cults, for they encourage people to commit wrongdoings. We can see that there is a big difference between the first and second vows, although both come from a pure and perfect intention. The third vow is to make offerings extensively. The primary characteristics of universal worthy bodhisattva is an immeasurably broad and compassionate heart, which in Mahayana Buddhism is considered as the perfect function of the true nature. Ordinary bodhisattvas have seen to this true self-nature, but it is partial, not perfect. Only the virtuous character of universal worthy bodhisattva is perfect. All his vows are directed to all beings in the universe. Herein lies the difference between universal worthy bodhisattva and ordinary bodhisattvas who just practice the 6 paramitas. An offering to one Buddha is an offering to all Buddhas. His offerings are not only made to Buddhas, but to all beings, sentient and non-sentient. Therefore, one is all, and all is one. With this great broad-mindedness, we can attain the non-discriminatory and boundless perfection. Universal worthy Bodhisattva told us that of all the many kinds of offerings, that of the teachings is supreme. However, only the Buddha's teachings can help sentient beings break through delusion and confusion to uncover the perfect self-nature, to become enlightened. No other kind of offering can do this. As Buddhism is an education, we are to honor the teacher and revere his or her teachings. Only in this way can we attain perfect, complete enlightenment. In the teachings of Buddha Shakyamuni, which sutra is the most important? In the Sui and Tang dynasties, over 1,000 years ago, great Buddhist scholars studied and compared all of the sutras from Buddha Shakyamuni's 49 years of teachings. They agreed that the Flower Adornment Sutra was the most important. So the Flower Adornment Sutra was commonly acknowledged as the perfect teaching. The scholars then made comparisons between the Infinite Life Sutra and the Flower Adornment Sutra, and concluded that the Infinite Life Sutra was higher than the Flower Adornment Sutra. They explained that the Flower Adornment Sutra and the Lotus Sutra are the 2 most important. In Chinese Buddhism, they are called the first vehicle perfect teachings. Both function as the guide to the Infinite Life Sutra. Therefore, the Infinite Life Sutra is really the #1 teaching. When I first read this, I was very pleased because it agreed with my personal experience. It was the Flower Adornment Sutra that guided me to Pure Land Buddhism. I lectured on this sutra for 17 years. Later, I only lectured on the chapter on Universal Worthies, Conduct and Vows from the Flower Adornment Sutra. During these 17 years, I deeply comprehended the meaning of the 10 great vows of universal worthy Bodhisattva in guiding beings to the Western Pure Land. This Pure Land is the essence and the final destination of the flower adornment. From this experience, I realized that the ancient masters were right. So we know what is the best and most important among all of Buddha Shakyamuni's teachings. However, it was only after Mr. Liang Ju Sha, a Buddhist layman, edited a compilation of the 5 versions of the original translations of the Infinite Life Sutra that we could enjoy a perfect benefit. The great project of editing such an extensive literary collection demonstrated that Mr. Shah was not an ordinary person, but rather the manifestation of a great Bodhisattva. This great being felt compassion for the sentient beings in our world, which revealed that the opportunity for many beings to attain Buddhahood had matured. Thus, he manifested in our world to compile the sutra versions and to propagate the Pure Land method during our Dharma ending age. When I visited Beijing, a student of Mr. Xia presented me with a photograph of his teacher. Upon returning to Taiwan, I printed an enlarged copy of the photograph. Although it is not very clear due to repeated duplications, an amazing phenomena is apparent. Behind Mr. Xia's head, the image of a Buddha appears. Light is emitting from this image as well as from below his feet. Although the photograph has been reduplicated many times, we can still clearly see that the image over Mr. Xia's head is that of a Buddha sitting on his lotus seat. We placed the photograph in a prominent position to express our gratitude to this great Bodhisattva for having given us such a gift and for guiding us in our cultivation and propagation of Buddhism. The Infinite Life Sutra is the most important sutra for helping all beings to attain Buddhahood. It contains 48 chapters. Which chapter is number 1? Of all the chapters, chapter 6 is the most important. It tells of Buddha Amitabha's 48 vows. When we read the Infinite Life Sutra, we see that Buddha Shakyamuni accorded with these vows when he introduced the history and background of the Pure Land. Which of these vows is number 1? The great scholars and monks in ancient China agreed that the 18th vow is number 1. It tells us that 10 recitations of Buddha Amitabha's name will result in birth into the Pure Land. In my early years of study, I questioned whether the Buddha had the ability to help a person to immediately become a Buddha, even if they were doomed to be born into the Avicii hell, the lowest of the hell realms. If Buddha was unable to accomplish this, then his wisdom and ability were limited, and saying that he had all virtues and perfect abilities was a compliment rather than a fact. However, if the Buddha was capable of helping such a person become a Buddha, then I would believe that he was really perfect in wisdom and capability, and thus worthy of our admiration. This question remained unanswered until after I read the 48 vows of Buddha Amitabha in the sutra. Then I realized that the Buddha's wisdom and virtuous character are indeed perfect and universal. The Buddha is indeed capable of helping a person who has committed serious offenses to become a Buddha. The question lies in whether or not the person believes and accepts. If not, then the fault lies with the individual, not with the Buddha. So after reading the Infinite Life Sutra, we know that anyone who sincerely practices the recitation method will surely succeed. In the earlier example of Master Deshan and the student who so successfully chanted Namo Amitabha for 3 years, the student knew in advance that he would be born into the Pure Land. He told the woman who prepared his food that she need not bring it the following day. After he passed away from this world, he remained in a standing position for 3 days, waiting for his master to come to make final arrangements. His birth into the Pure Land was into the highest level. His accomplishment is proof of the 18th vow, which explains to us that this birth can be accomplished with just 10 recitations of Amitabha. Anyone who firmly believes in this method surely has good roots, great merits and virtues. The Infinite Life Sutra explains that the monk's rebirth after such a short time of practice was due to his having made offerings to innumerable Buddhas in previous lifetimes. As a result, he was able to believe and practice. Without his good roots from previous lifetimes, he would not have been able to believe regardless of what his teacher had said. The name of Buddha Amitabha has infinite meanings. It is the name of the universe, so it includes everything. If we want to know the meaning of the name, we can read the Infinite Life Sutra, the explanation of the name. If we want to understand the Infinite Life Sutra, we can read the Flower Adornment Sutra, for it is a detailed explanation of the Infinite Life Sutra. If we want to understand the Flower Adornment Sutra, we can read the entire Great Canon, for it is the detailed explanation of the Flower Adornment Sutra. By using this method to understand the sutras, we will know that the merit and virtue of the name of Buddha Amitabha are truly extraordinary. This name alone contains all of Buddhism, as well as all laws throughout the universe. Therefore, to chant this name is to chant all sutras. During the reign of Emperor Qianlong, there was a famous monk, Sun Guangding. Among his many works is the Directory to the Visualization Sutra, which tells us that we can escape from disasters when we resort to reciting sutras, chanting mantras, or drawing divination slips. However, if a person has committed grave wrongdoings, then the only thing that will work is to recite Namo Amitabha. From this, we understand that this is the best method to use when facing disasters. Many people do not know this, so they resort to other methods. Therefore, a person who is ill may recite the Medicine Master Sutra, and when faced with disaster, may recite the Universal Door chapter. This person does not know that the merit and virtues of Buddha name recitation make it the #1 method. Then why didn't Buddha Shakyamuni tell us so directly? Why did he teach so many sutras and methods? Because many people do not believe in the Buddha name recitation method. So he kept the finest method for last. This is similar to what we see in the Taiwan Palace Museum. Most people consider the beautiful jade collection from the Qing dynasty to be more valuable than the bronzeware, which resembles pieces of metal, not realizing that the bronzeware is the most valuable part of the collection in the museum. Similarly, most people do not realize the true value of Buddha name recitation. So the Buddha had to teach all sutras to guide sentient beings to the Pure Land. Master Shan Dao told us that the only purpose for all Buddhas to manifest in the world is to tell us of the original vows of Buddha Amitabha. Today, we can truly understand, cultivate, and practice and propagate the Pure Land method. Truthfully, this is due to the support of the Triple Jewels. Also, the opportunities today for sentient beings to attain achievement are very good. In the past 5 to 6 years, millions of copies of the Infinite Life Sutra have been printed and spread throughout the world. I have traveled around the world, introducing and recommending this sutra. Many people have liked and accepted it. Seeing you here, working and practicing so earnestly, I am very pleased and feel that my hard work has been rewarded. Therefore, if we can practice and widely propagate this method, then I can say that we have perfectly fulfilled the vow to make offerings extensively. The methods used by Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are infinite in number. They are the display of great compassion and lead to birth into the Pure Land. For example, Universal Worthy Bodhisattva is the founder of Tibetan Buddhism. Also, Juanti Bodhisattva, one of the great patriarchs of Tibetan Buddhism, is a manifestation of Guanyin Bodhisattva. Both Universal Worthy Bodhisattva and Guanyin Bodhisattva urge us to seek birth into the Western Pure Land. We ordinary people discriminate between Chinese and Tibetan Buddhism. But Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, with their perfect freedom and non-discriminatory minds, do not discriminate among the different schools. All 84,000 methods lead to the same goal. With this understanding, we will naturally respect all methods and all schools. The fourth vow is to regret karmic obstacles. Everybody has karmic obstacles. Every thought in a person's mind is a karmic act, which in turn will certainly result in an obstacle. What is obstructed? Our true mind, within which there is infinite wisdom and virtue. There are two types of obstacles: those caused by afflictions and those caused by knowledge attachment. We create these constantly. The Buddha told us in the Flower Adornment Sutra, all beings have the Buddha's wisdom and virtues, but cannot attain them due to their wandering thoughts and attachments. Like a doctor, the Buddha pointed out the cause of our illness. Attachments are the root cause of afflictions, and wandering thoughts are the cause of knowledge attachment. For all methods, learning and cultivation is simply a matter of doing away with our wandering thoughts and attachments. Once we do this, we will uncover our Buddha nature. All the methods in Buddhism teach us to regret our karmic obstacles. Thus, to regret karmic obstacles is the key to our cultivation. However, it is very difficult to remove these obstacles. Of all the methods, the Pure Land method is unique. For even if we have committed an extremely grave offense, such as one of the 5 deadly offenses, and are thus destined to fall into the Avicii hell, we can still remove our obstacles and attain Buddhahood. We need to feel remorse, vow to change, practice Buddha name recitation, and accord with the Buddha's teachings to attain birth into the Pure Land. This is why Master Chin said that this recitation method alone is able to dispel obstacles, for they cannot be dispelled reciting sutras or mantras. In the past few years, there was a theory being circulated that said that a person with remaining karma could not be born into the Western Pure Land. This greatly shocked and panicked Pure Land practitioners. When I went to Los Angeles in 1984, I was asked if this was really true. On hearing the question, I smiled and said, if it were true that a person with remaining karma could not be born into the Pure Land, then the only person there would be Buddha Amitabha. What then is the use of going there? The person questioned why. I replied, have you ever heard of the 4 lands, 3 kinds, and 9 grades in the Pure Land? He replied that he had read of them in the sutras. I told him, if no one with remaining karma could be born into the Pure Land, why are there 4 lands, 3 kinds, and 9 levels? With this, he understood. The division of lands, kinds, and levels is based on the amount of remaining karma. With heavier karma, we are born into a lower grade. With lighter karma, we are born into a higher grade. I then explained, Guanyin Bodhisattva, Manjushri Bodhisattva, and Universal Worthy Bodhisattva are all equal enlightenment bodhisattvas. The sutras tell us that even bodhisattvas of this high level still possess 1 degree of remaining ignorance. Isn't this a karmic act? My questioner was greatly relieved at my words. So even an equal enlightenment bodhisattva goes to the Pure Land with remaining karma. Buddha Amitabha is the only one there without any karma. I then concluded, who says that a person with remaining karma cannot be born into the Western Pure Land? My words seemed to help, as the questioner laughed merrily, for he began to see that all beings in the Pure Land had gone there with remaining karma. Buddhism teaches us not to be angry or to hold grudges against others. So I added, it is not wrong to advocate extinguishing karma, for it is good to carry as little karma as possible to the Pure Land. In this way, a person can attain birth into a higher level. Later, I went to New York. As soon as I got off the plane, I was again asked the very same question. People did not understand. As soon as I explained, they understood that it was not wrong to have karma. Extinguishing karma is good, for it is feeling remorse for the obstacle. Buddha name recitation is a sincere act of feeling remorse and vowing to change. However, when feeling remorse, we must be sure that our heart is the same as Buddha Amitabha. Our vow is the same as Buddha Amitabha's, and our behavior corresponds with that of Buddha Amitabha. How do we do this? With sincerity, by not reciting simply with our mouth, but with our heart. In this way, we will perfectly fulfill the teachings in the sutra. Only by doing so can it be said that we are true cultivators of the recitation method. Be sure that with every thought of Amitabha, we have the same thought and vow as the Buddha. We need to turn his 48 vows into our vows. Only in this way can we be rid of karmic transgressions. The fifth vow is to be joyful over others' meritorious deeds. This requires us to go against what seems to be so natural to us: jealousy. It is natural for humans to have this emotion. For example, small children appear unhappy when others receive more candy than they do. This is jealousy and is a major obstacle to our self-cultivation. Universal Worthy Bodhisattva largely attributed this vow to jealousy. He taught us not to feel envy, but to regard others' meritorious deeds as our own, and to further assist them in their endeavors. This vow tells us to not only feel joyful over others' meritorious deeds, but to help them accomplish even more. If we are unable to offer assistance, we can at least express our joy and admiration. However, if we are able to offer assistance, then it will be a true fulfillment of this vow. Remember that helping others is helping ourselves. We would do well to love and tolerate those who exceed us, for in this way we will accomplish the virtue of this vow. In ancient times, education in China was such that each succeeding generation was expected to exceed the current generation in accomplishment. If not, the education was considered a failure. People today, however, are afraid that others will exceed them. When they teach others, they may hold back important information. This is called grudging teaching, which will incur the retribution of ignorance. Grudging money incurs poverty. These people are not aware how serious the retribution will be. We should strive to continually progress in our cultivation of virtue, acquisition of knowledge, development of ability, and improvement of the standard of life. Only in this way will education be successful, with the entire society progressing. It will be our responsibility in the next era to educate others. If we fail to attain virtue, knowledge, and ability, we will not be able to help the next generation of sentient beings. Why? Look at today's children. The education they receive is leaning more and more towards science and technology, while society is becoming increasingly complicated. Therefore, those who have vowed to help others will need to have a purer heart, greater wisdom, and higher virtue to cope with the new era and opportunities. Jealousy and hatred are extremely harmful to our self-nature, and hence should be extinguished. So the virtue of being joyful over others' meritorious deeds will be even more important. The sixth vow is to appeal to Buddhas to turn the Dharma wheel. Since we benefit from the education we receive from the Buddha, what can we do to repay his kindness? Nowadays, Most people enshrine and worship him, making daily offerings to his image on an altar. Is this the right way to thank him, to repay him? No. These are only rituals to remind us not to forget the Buddha's kindness. The Buddha's wish is for all sentient beings to hear the truth, practice accordingly, and receive the benefits to attain Buddhahood. The only way we can repay him is to take his heart as our own. Only in this way can we repay our respected teacher. Therefore, we can request the turning of the Dharma wheel. In other words, we invite knowledgeable masters to teach us about the sutras. This is also the greatest good deed and virtue. Why? Because it brings the teachings to the world. But if no one invites Dharma masters to lecture, they will not have the opportunity to do so. So people who invite them to give Dharma talks will gain great merits. Many people are willing to invite masters to chant or recite, believing that they will receive inconceivable good fortune. But actually, they may not understand the meaning of what they are reciting. Therefore, if they invite the Dharma master to give a talk, then the good fortune, merits, and virtues are even greater. The listeners will acquire a better understanding of the text and will be more inclined to recite the sutras and to follow their teachings. Unfortunately, if we want to invite to give a master to give a talk on the sutra today, we will find it hard to find an eligible one, since there are so few. Many times, as I have traveled to give talks, I have been told that it was difficult to find masters to speak. I have smiled and said, having a master to teach is the result. We need to plant the cause before we can attain the result. You are wishing for it without having planted the cause. Where on earth can we find such a deal? What does planting the cause in this instance mean? To help train Dharma masters. People like to listen to talks by senior, famous masters. Younger, unknown masters are generally inexperienced, so fewer people attend their talks. Thus, they become discouraged, and thinking that giving talks is too difficult, they return to conducting ceremonial services. What should we do to help these less experienced masters? The younger and more inexperienced they are, the more we need to attend their talks. This will encourage them to practice and to improve. However, even if we attend every one of the Master's talks, we should not praise them. Unfounded praise is more harmful than slander. People may become very angry when slandered, but for a person with integrity and enthusiasm, the slander will only serve as a stimulant. The more embarrassed he or she becomes, the more determined he or she becomes. This person will do their utmost to achieve. However, if people praise and eulogize the Master, he or she will think that they are so good that further improvement is unnecessary. This thinking leads to arrogance. Therefore, we should neither praise inexperienced masters nor make offerings to them with too much money and fame. They will soon become tainted. A person gives rise to the bodhisattva heart and becomes a monk or nun, but later becomes corrupt due to receiving excessive praise and offerings from followers. So these followers are to blame for ruining this monk or nun. When the monk or nun receives the retribution, the followers will share the responsibility. Then whom should we make offerings to? The person with a firm mind, for he or she will neither feel excited when praised nor troubled when slandered. Only they deserve to receive the praise and admiration, for only they will not be harmed by it. We would do well to strongly recommend this Master to others, so that the Master can help more beings. To accept praise and offerings is very difficult. Buddhists say that a single grain from the donor is heavier than Mount Sumeru. I will serve the donor like a bull in my next lifetime if I do not transcend the 6 realms of reincarnation at the end of this life. So it is not easy to properly accept offerings. Even Buddhas and Bodhisattvas do not enjoy the offerings made to them, let alone we ordinary beings. However, when the donor wishes to foster good deeds and virtues, the Master should accept the offerings and then pass them on to others. Earlier in this century, Master Yingguang set a good example for us. His innumerable followers gave him many offerings. He used all the money to print sutras. Following his example, I have also used all the money donated to print sutras. I then freely distribute the books to everybody. I had the thought that if I did not attain achievement in this lifetime and transcend the 6 realms, I would at least not become a bull in my next lifetime, because everyone who had received my books would help to pay the debt for me. This is the transference of giving. In this way, everybody would share in the good fortune. This is the proper way of accepting offerings from followers. Using the offerings for personal use is absolutely wrong and immoral. Even if the money is used to build a way place, the way place has to be used to promote Buddhism. Only in this way can the donor receive the merits and virtues. Otherwise, without propagation and cultivation, the way place will become a place of competition and conflict. Therefore, we must be very careful if we want to build a way place. My late teacher, Mr. Lee, once said, when building the way place, everybody is a bodhisattva, doing their best to complete the work. But after the way place is built, everybody becomes a demon. Why? Because they are all trying to grab power and profit. They have forgotten their initial genuine intention in building the way place. We have to be very careful when making offerings to a Dharma master. The Buddha told us that there are 4 kinds of offerings that could be made to monks and nuns. The first is food and drink, without which they could not live. The second is clothing, if it becomes worn. Provide new ones if there is not another one available. The third is medicine to be provided upon illness. The fourth is bedding. Nowadays, followers offer monks and nuns houses and whatever good things they can afford. Then they live such comfortable lives that they no longer want to go to the Pure Land.